is Georgia Southern Football 90, featuring the defending NCAA National Champion, Georgia Southern Eagles. This program is brought to you by Team Baden Isuzu. We are the competition. And by Atlantic Cellular. It's for you, Savannah. Now here's your host, Bill Edwards, and Georgia Southern University head football coach, Tim Stowers.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Georgia Southern Football 90. We're coming to you from the new Student Union here at Georgia Southern. Beautiful facility, great facilities here. And Tim, this is just a wonderful thing that's going on at Georgia Southern. All started several years ago. Football helped bring it about, but the university's just grown like crazy.
Well, it really has. Since I've been here in 1985, we've grown from 6,000 students to now a little bit over 12. And now we've got I believe it's the nicest student union I've ever laid my eyes on right here that we're in right now as we speak.
And, of course, a beautiful facility like Paulson Stadium where we'd be back this week after about a 3 or 4 week absence.
That's great because it seemed like such a long time since we played at Glenn Bryant Field at Paulson Stadium, and we get a chance to play against a really good Savannah State football team this weekend at Saturday at 1 o'clock.
Last year, I think we found out just how good those guys were because it was quite a scare. And this year, we're on a 3-game winning streak. They're on a 4-game winning streak, both off to shaky starts. A lot of parallels here.
Well, I'd like to say this. Coach Davis is one of the finest football coaches I know and one of the finest persons I know. We played against him when he coached at South Carolina State. He did an outstanding job. They had good football players there. And they have some great football players at Savannah State College this year. Even though they lost, Richard Basil and they lost Shannon Sharp, Coach Davis has replaced Basil with another outstanding quarterback who's bigger and might be faster than Basil, Jeffries. They've got a good offensive line. They've got a prototype tight end. They got a wideout Grant who's making all kind of plays out there, catching the football. I think he scored 8 touchdowns. Their 2 linebackers, number 55 and number 50, are great players. And they're the key to their defensive football team. This is a fine Savannah State football team. They had kind of the same kind of problems we had earlier in the year. They've lost 2 or 3 in a row, and then they came back from the dead, as Georgia Southern has, and now they're kind of on a roll. They've won like the last 4 football games, and they've scored 40-plus points in the last 4 football games. It's going to be another war. It ought to be a great day for football, and a great day for football in southeast Georgia. So I know Savannah State's going to bring a big crowd to Paulson Stadium. I've heard that just about every ticket's been sold, and that's what football is all about, and that's what college football is all about. That's what excites me, and, we're down here in football country, and it's great to be down here. I appreciate it.
All right. We'll be back with the first half highlights of the Savannah State contest right after this. Entering the 8th game of the season, it was finally football weather. 65 degrees, a 10-mile-an-hour wind. Gorgeous day for being outside with local rival Savannah State on hand for the occasion. And when Don Norton kicked it away to the Tigers, there was no chance of a run back. He nearly put it out of Bullock County. On the first 2 plays, the Tigers netted 4 yards on a pair of 2-yard carries by David Coleman. This was one of them. And Johnny Jeffries' pass on 3rd and 6 was tipped and almost picked off by Rodney Oglesby. But when Southern first got their hands on the ball, things didn't progress very well. In fact, they didn't progress at all. As Raymond Gross missed an exchange from center, there was the usual scramble, and number 99, Alfredo Givens, a freshman out of Buford, held up the ball for the Tigers. But Southern's defense not only wouldn't yield, Savannah State proved to be its own worst enemy. 3rd and 2 from the Southern 32. Johnny Jeffries' pitch went wild when he was hit. Tailback Frederick Hawkins just managed to recover. But on 4th and 13, punter Greg Leverett faked it, tried to pass. It didn't stand a prayer when he threw it into a crowd of Southerners. The Eagles took over at their own 43. This time, Southern would not squander the opportunity. First 2 plays didn't get diddly, but on 3rd down, Raymond scrambled, somehow avoided defenders, lost his footing, recovered, and still got out of the jam, hitting Terrence Sorrell with a perfect strike for 16 yards up to the Tiger 43. From there, the Eagle Express was gangbusters. On 1st down, Raymond pitched out to Darrell Hopkins on the right corner. Hop turned upfield and hustled down the sideline for 24 more yards down to the 19. 2 plays later, Raymond found a wide-open Carl Miller over the middle, and it was clear sailing to the end zone. 7-0 GSU. As the bald eagle himself, Erk Russell, looked on with obvious approval. When SSC got their hands on the ball again, it nearly came right back home as Johnny Jeffrey's pass on first down was nearly picked off by Michael Berry. A second down sweep got 5 yards for Lucius Cole, but a third down pass failed as Jeffrey sprinted out to his left. Eugene Hayes and Steve Busaletti in hot pursuit, and Jim Mutimer nearly picked off this one. So it was punting time again for Greg Leverett, and he just did manage to get it away. Southern was once again in great field position at their own 48. And here was an interesting play on first down. Raymond Gross pitching back to Albert Huntley, normally the backup quarterback, who uncorked the bomb to Terrence Sorrell. Had his man beat by a step, but the defender, Patrick Dean, inadvertently tripped Terrence before the ball got there. The crowd and Terrence obviously wanted what they weren't going to get. The official ruled this was not a catchable ball. But no need to cry over spent pigskin. Just pitch the ball to Carl Miller. And so they did. 30 yards later, it was 1st and 10 at the enemy 23. And watch again from ground level. A look at a great downfield block thrown by Darrell Belzer, allowing Carl to get that yardage. That largely unappreciated effort then deserved an award, and so it was. On 3rd and 17, Raymond sprinted to his left and fired this rainbow to the lonesome Mr. Belzer for a 14-0 advantage. Watch from the end zone. Is Darrell wide open here or what? This is what coaches refer to as a breakdown in coverage, and the rest of us call getting burned. Late in the opening period, the Eagle Express got up another full head of steam with Lester Eford stoking the boiler. Lester hit left tackle where Danny Smith opened some daylight, and Lester ran right through to the 41. On second down, Raymond fired to Terrence Sorrell for another 19 yards to the Tiger 40. Then Lester got 39 yards of what remained, going off left tackle again. A superb downfield block by number 25, Darrell Hopkins helped, while Eford just bulldozed past others before Corey Ladson could finally bring him down, hanging on for dear life at the 1. 2 plays later, Alonzo McGee went off the right side, 21-0 Southern. There just seemed to be something about Savannah State that got Lester fired up.
Yeah, pretty much before the game started, I was pretty much fired up for this game. You know, Savannah down the road from us, you know, pretty good arrival. And we just came out and just did what we had to do.
How do you feel now that the team seems to be on a roll? You got a 4-game winning streak now and headed for homecoming against James Madison next week. You got to feel good about the rest of the season.
Yeah, we feel pretty good right now, but we just can't let that hold that against us, because we got to come out and play next week. You know, homecoming, James Madison. That's another big rival too. You know, because they're gonna come down and be ready to play. We just got to be ready to play Georgia Southern football.
As the second quarter began, just when it looked like the Tigers were driving, 2 things happened. Steve Busaletti dropped Johnny Jeffrey for a 10-yard loss. And on the ensuing play, Rodney Oglesby intercepted at the 30 and brought it back 11 yards to the 41. And with it, tying Kaz Dixon's career interception record at a dozen. Got an impressive record today.
Well,
12th interception, right?
that was a good one. That one felt pretty good. I wasn't aware of tying the record or anything, but it felt pretty good. I wish I could have gotten another one earlier, but those are the breaks.
What happened on that play that you were able to see that one come?
One interception?
Yeah.
Well, I was sort of playing a zone man technique. I was reading the quarterback and playing my man, and I saw the quarterback look toward number 2, the second guy on the inside. So I broke on the ball. I got a good break, and he threw it right to me. So it bobbled one time because of the thumb. I don't think the thumb was completely strong, but
I was just going to ask you, how does it feel being out of the cast now?
it feels a lot better because I'm a lot more mobile. I can do a lot more things. I can get my hands on some people and catch a lot more balls. And it just feels a lot better than running around with that cast on.
Now, there's a scary thought for opposing quarterbacks to lose sleep over. Now, with a safety to their credit and a 23-0 lead, the Eagle Express was taking full advantage. Pitch to Darrell Hopkins down to the 36. And Raymond kept it himself for another 20 yards. First key block, number 63, John Wilson. And as Raymond was getting hemmed in, he pitched off to Joe Ross for 8 more. And on 2nd and goal, Ross took Raymond's pitch once more. Going around the right corner, that was all she wrote. 30-0. Things got no better for the Tigers. On 4th down, you might say that Greg Leverett was the victim of a bad snap. Chance Ward blocked it and also recovered it at the Tiger 12. But to SSC's everlasting credit, they didn't let the Eagles back in the end zone. So Georgia Southern had to settle for a Mike Dowis field goal, a 29-yarder, and a 33-0 lead. And again, let's give credit where it's due, as Savannah State put on a very impressive scoring drive late in the half, starting with a 16-yard strike from Johnny Jeffrey to flanker Doug Grant up to the 40. And on 2nd and 10 from the GSU 36, Jeffrey hit tight end Ken Brown for 11 more. And on 2nd and 2 from the Eagle 7, the Jeffrey to Grant combo clicked for a 33-7 margin. But strangely enough, with only 10 seconds to go before intermission, backup quarterback Albert Huntley chunked the bomb to Darrell Belzer, and it nearly worked. Darrell was finally pushed out of bounds with no time left to prevent the score. Come on back and meet the man in charge of keeping our kids healthy, trainer Doc Smith, next as Georgia Southern Football 90 continues. Our halftime guest is Tom Doc Smith, the head trainer at Georgia Southern, who has a full-time job, I would think, Doc, just keeping everybody straight, because you handle all athletics, do you not?
We're responsible for all women and men's sports, and I have, thank goodness, a full-time staff, a full-time assistant, a graduate assistant, and 14 student trainers.
This is something that I guess sports medicine over the last 20 years or so is something that's really come into its own. I mean, it's its own profession now, is it not?
It really is. This happens to be my 20th year here at Georgia Southern, and so I've kind of seen it change. It's interesting also to attend a physician's course on sports medicine the last couple of years in Orlando and Scottsdale, Arizona. There were over 400 physicians there, some, of course, who are in sports medicine, but it indicates to me there's a lot of physicians who would like to get into sports medicine also.
Mm-hmm. The second half began essentially where the first left off. On 2nd and 10, Savannah State's Orlando Dean made a great defensive play, dropping Carl Miller for a 7-yard loss, only to see it go for naught when on 3rd and 17. Raymond rolls out to his right and, yes indeed, hits Darrell Belzer for 21 yards. From there it was pretty simple. You give it to Joe Ross. He should get about 46 off the left side. Yep, down to the Tiger 13. Then Raymond will flex the flex bone muscle with this keeper, using his wizardry all the way to Oz. The blocking wasn't too bad either. Credit Miguel Ayu, Carl Miller, and Terrence Finley on the outside, just to name a few. Southern was making it look mighty easy. Jeffries is a good quarterback, but there was something apparently you guys were reading today that made it easy for you to defend.
Oh yeah, he is a real good quarterback. He has such great athletic ability. He can run, he can move, and he can run and throw at the same time. He sort of looks where he's going to throw. That's one thing that helped us out, even though the tight end sort of picked me apart a couple times.
Our defense had 3 fine days of practice last week, and they kind of had a different type of attitude last week. And I think that carries over into a football game. I want our players to remember how we've gotten to the point where we are, where we dug ourselves in a ditch at 1-3, and now we've had good practices the last 3 or 4 weeks, and we've gotten a little bit better, and we're going to have to continue to get a little bit better next week to have a chance to beat James Madison. The fourth stanza began with Albert Huntley taking over the helm from Raymond Gross and not missing a step, picking up 29 yards on this play down to the SSC 31. Then from the wonderful world of the wild and wacky, Huntley dropped back and dropped the bomb right into the wide open arms of Terrence Finley, number 84. Only one minor problem, penalty flags all over creation. The Eagles were in motion. The Tigers were guilty of a face mask violation, so we replay the down, and that's exactly what Huntley and company did. If at first you don't succeed...
that was the same play that was just before halftime. Yeah. And we did it again, and they jumped the vertical route and left the post alone. Then went back and did the other side, and then they jumped the post and left the vertical alone. So it worked out all right.
And how do you feel coming in? You got the 4-game winning streak now. Homecoming coming up next week. We're still back home. You guys got to feel pretty good.
Yeah, you got to feel good about it. I mean, it's nothing like playing at home, and we're on a roll right now, and just hope we can keep it up.
It has to be good for morale to get so many people in. You were able to play Albert Huntley today, also your third-string quarterback and all.
Well, it's great. A lot of those players, they've only been able to practice so far this season. We hadn't had this type of football game, and it is great for morale, and it's great to see those young football players, the future of Georgia Southern out there playing football and getting a chance to play in a game-type setting instead of just having to practice all the time. That'll make them better practice players next week, and that's what we want them to do, and we want them to continue to get better, and I'm so glad that we got to play that many players.
The Southern defense continued to confound a pretty good Tiger offense. Tim Brown fighting off a block and sacking Jeffrey for a 6-yard loss. Then on 3rd down 10, cornerback Gene Scott of Gainesville and free safety Brad Ullman out of Sylvania came up quickly to stop this play. Then special teams killed the Tigers again, as Sean Austin and Brandon Roselle, both freshmen, blocked Greg Leverett's punt. It was a constant source of pride for co-defensive coordinator Tommy Spangler and a constant source of frustration for Savannah State head man Bill Davis.
Well, you know, you can kind of by studying film get a knack for what they're going to do passing-wise, and we did that. And we had a good feel and a good plan that they were going to execute that way, and we kind of settled in. And we had a bust here, too, but overall the secondary and the linebackers did a good job of recognizing routes and playing them. But, you know, that tight end and Doug Grant, they're as good as we've seen. And Jeffries hung in there. We put pressure on him, but he hung in there and got rid of the ball and hurt us at times.
Just didn't play good secondary play. Had terrible special teams. I knew this was one of our weaknesses coming into the game. And a game like this, you have to go, you know, recruit. It's not an embarrassment, I don't think, because embarrassment would have been probably, I'm embarrassed because we blew the assignments that we did. You know, it says that either we're not doing a good job of coaching and preparing our ball club, but I thought offensively we moved the ball. We saw some weak spots in their defense, and Johnny took advantage of it. You know, we got the tight end in the middle of the defense, made him tighten it up. Grant was able to catch some pass on the outside. So I think you take away the blown coverages, you take away the special teams play, things probably could have been equal to or better than.
The result was one last score for the Eagles as Springfield sophomore Tim Townsend ripped off 13 yards for the SSC 21, and then Huntley made it 16 more to get the Eagles inside the 5. 2 plays later, Townsend, the former Effingham County star, muscled his way into pay dirt. Mike Dow's PAT was the 54th and final point of the day. The defense did the rest. Right end Steve Busaletti knew it had been a productive afternoon, but not perfect.
You know, our defensive backs did a great job covering. Linebackers did a great job, and, you know, it gives us some coverage sacks. And, you know, hopefully when we get pressure, we get interceptions, so it works both ways. And, you know, we look pretty good at times. We still need to be a little more consistent. And, you know, I'm happy.
Steve, Southern boosters everywhere share that happiness. We even got a look at Statesboro's own Derek McGrady run the offense some Saturday afternoon. And Coach Stowers will have a final word in a moment.